YouTube, welcome back. I am Shaggy Philalitea. This is the channel Talking to the Future. The Talking to the Future pod, I guess. But today we return to the first Final Fantasy to try to get to the rat's tail as quickly as possible for my own personal vanity. I guess this could be a challenge run if I had thought about that. I could have tried to do a challenge run. I'm not particularly interested in challenge runs, to be honest with you. I'm not interested in failing a challenge run, and I'm not really interested in playing these games enough to practice a challenge run. But I am challenging myself with 2 rogues, 2 white mages, 2 thieves, 2 white mages, whatever the classes are officially called. And we've just done the dwarves, we've just done the nitro powder, so we're off, and I don't exactly remember where to, but that's okay, because this can be a grinding episode. I'm charging my battery in a Panera. Now, this will be going to the future. I have no subs on this channel, but if you like this, and you want me to be able to continue working out of public, whether the library or Panera or a Burger King or some other establishment that will let me charge my phone, you can make it worth it to that establishment by giving me a couple of bucks so I have it to spend here and I don't have to be always stealing the Wi-Fi and the electricity. Today, what I might end up talking about through the course of the day, just the videos that I do today, is time management. I talked a little bit about resource management and how these games, these old JRPGs, are great for resource management. And then I spent a little bit of time this morning playing Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which was really the first JRPG that I played as a good American boy. My first Japanese RPG was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, the Final Fantasy for American children. I really like that game, so sometimes every few years I'll download an emulator and I'll revisit it. But time management, the story that I keep leaving off for you about what I like about how the Neebs gaming guys, organize their time is that they play a video game for an hour, they record it for an hour or maybe 2 hours, whatever their actual schedule is, and then they live stream on Twitch, and that's where they really make their audience, is live streaming on Twitch. But I'm not sure why Twitch won't save my streams so that I can make clips and stuff and do basically this, but they can be longer and they can be on Twitch and they don't have to be on my phone. And I can't save my work, basically, is what I'm telling you. I can't save big chunks of material like that on my phone. My phone has a limited amount of space, and uploading that from my phone will take almost as long as it took to record. Let's see if I'm still uploading. Let's see. Yeah, I'm still uploading that video from when I got here about 40 minutes ago. So and that's only a 30-minute or maybe an hour. It just takes a long time. It takes a lot longer than I would like it to take to upload from my phone. Bit my lip pretty severely last night. I either woke up chewing on it or something, but I got a pretty severe cut on my lip. We're gonna see how much money we get from this fight real quick. Because it might be in my best interest to grind up some money. shouldn't, though. I want to do this as quick as possible. That's not quickly. That's slowly, in fact. That's just taking every opportunity I can to grind. And that impulse is back in me because I played Mystic Quest, old school JRPG, and I was also playing the first Wild Arms on the PlayStation, or from the PlayStation, earlier today, and the original PlayStation. And that's a great game. In fact, that game is so great and so visually stimulating, and I hear so few people talk about it. I'll probably go ahead and stream that after I beat this. I didn't even look at how much money I made from that fight, because I had determined that trying to grind levels is against what I'm trying to do here. So I need to go... I think I'm trying to get down to the tip of that peninsula, that triangular-shaped peninsula there on the map. But anyway, they play for an hour or two, and then they stream. That is Neeps, the Neeps Gaming guys. They stream on Twitch. And the interactivity of being live, but specifically of being live on Twitch, is how they build and maintain their audience, but also that's how they make their real money. The tips that people are able to directly, send you. And, my Twitter's all fucked up, but if you were allowed to, if you did follow me, there is the tip button right there on my Twitter that makes it convenient for you to find all the places that you can directly stimulate me, economically, financially, fiduciarily. But I'm not super duper worried about it. It would be nice to be able to eat on the weekends. It would be nice to be able to justify going into Walmart and getting things. But I'm not worried about it. It'll happen if it happens. If you love me, it'll happen. If you don't love me, it won't happen. And that's really what it breaks down to, Musicians, they make it because somebody loved them. And actors, they made it because somebody loved them. And so I just have to keep my head up and know that God loves me even if you assholes don't, and I love you even if God doesn't. And so that can be some kind of weird feedback loop we get ourselves into, and we can make sense of that in the future. For now, I just want to relax. It's the weekend, and maybe I can get a few episodes ahead of myself, and I can give myself a production schedule. Because there is a lot on my mind. And there are a lot of things. This should be a topics channel. This should be a topics series, meaning that I should sit down with a topic and I should bang my head at it like the old talking to myself gaming was. I find that the people who watch those tend to be dissatisfied because I'm not looking for an end. When I have a question, I'm satisfied with not having an answer. I don't think you really understand. Ungoal-oriented learning. I just like to put on someone talking. That's how I like to spend my time. And I'm talking. And when I'm feeling visual, what I would enjoy watching very much is this, what I'm doing. I prefer to watch games like this. I would enjoy watching another human being do what I'm doing. I just don't particularly enjoy other human beings enough to seek out someone that I like who plays games like this. And so that does put me into a spot where I'm asking you to do something I wouldn't do, but at the same time, I would do it if it came across my dash. And so what I'm hoping is that these Talking to the Future gaming videos are going to start getting, I mean, I've got 20 or 30 views. They're going to start getting into the algorithm, and they're going to start getting people interested, and, you know, it's probably going to take finishing a few of these games before anybody really gets what I'm doing. I'm good with that. And so that means managing my time. And so now we're back to the topic of the video, which is time management. I think I get this sense that people have this idea of time management as some great skill, some great difficulty. I've never felt that way. But I also live more simply than you do. And so I don't obsess about wants, and I don't worry about whether I missed anything out or missed out on anything in a day. Like a good way to articulate this, a good example, is when I was at Eastside. I think it's called Eastside Ministries. When I was at Eastside, and they were helping me find warm clothes so I could survive this past week. They kept asking me, do you need this, do you need that, do you need this, do you need that, and even things that I could use, anything that it would have been a duplicate to take from them. I said, no, I have that at home. And they're like, well, what about when you run out? And I said, well, when I run out, I'll come back here and you'll have it still, or you won't, and I'll just go without it until I get more. And I think that's the difference in me and the people that I know have watched my material so far. That's not an uninvitation to continue watching my music, or my music, to watch my videos if you have before and you fell off for that reason, because I don't remember what it was, and so that's fine. But going without is something that Americans are bad about. It's something that Westerners broadly are bad at, and it's something that rich, non-Western, non-Americans are terrible at being able to go without. It's like I went without breakfast this morning, and I'm going to go without lunch. I'm actually sitting in a restaurant, and I'm going without eating, and without a hot cup of coffee would be amazing. I've gotten accustomed to having a hot cup of coffee with just a little bit of creamer in it, and so being able to make one to my taste and it'd be big and stay hot would just be an experience that I don't get to have anymore very frequently. And so going without is kind of addict language. We're kind of talking about addiction. And so when I notice my time is not being well managed, what I notice about myself is that I've allowed my addictions to control my time. I can't say that's true about you. I don't know you. I don't know you from Adam. I don't know if what you're doing is allowing your addictions to distract you. But I do know that's what I'm doing. That's 100% what I'm doing. I've noticed it over and over and over again. I wonder if I might not be more satisfied by playing this if I had a wireless controller. I don't know what a wireless controller would even look like for the Samsung. I have a Galaxy 24, whatever, the Ultra with the pen and stuff, but I don't even know what that would look like. But I think what we get upset about And I think where we get lost as far as time management goes is I think we think that we need a certain amount of entertainment in the day. And I've talked a lot about downtime and your downtime being or not being yours, and the way you spend your downtime determining the kind of person you are on the main channel, but that's not really what I'm talking about right now. It might be, it might always be, but it's not really what I'm talking about right now. I think what we do is we think that we need to watch. I think what happens is that we think we need to live our lives the way our grandparents live, but starting at employment age, basically. We think that our grandparents have to go to bed at a certain time, and they have to watch the same shows every day, at every time block when those shows are being released. They have their lives down to the scheduled routine. I think that we think that that's expected of us it is expected of us. It's really expected. Your parents, if you have good parents, they taught you how to sleep by just closing your eyes. Like you know how to sleep, and you know how to stay asleep for 8 hours. And you know how to get up after 8 hours have passed. And not having those skills mean that your parents have failed you. And here's the thing about having failed parents. I have failed parents. That's not an excuse to not have the skills that you should have at whatever age you're at. And that's irrespective of age. There are skills that you should have at 1, there are skills you should have at 2, there are skills you should have at 100 too. Now, getting old is a process of declination, of your skills going in decline, and obviously getting worse. But that's not the point. There are benchmarks that you should have at every year of your life, and if you're not meeting them, no matter who let you down, they are your responsibility to catch up on. You understand? And this is where time management, I think, as far as how people get upset with me, I don't get in X number of hours. I'm not like one of these people who's like, well, you got to get 8 hours of reading a day, and you got to have it down on a schedule, and you got to follow that schedule, and you got to stick to it. I'm not that guy. I'm very intuitive, and I go very much with the flow of my body and my emotions, and I very much let my body dictate and my feelings dictate what I'm going to do in any given day, and I've always done that. So I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't do that, but I am here to tell you that, like, you got to learn to get over it. You got to learn to stop sweating the small stuff, and you really got to get over your FOMO. Like, the world goes on without you. Anything that you didn't do on Tuesday, you can get done on Wednesday, because it'll still be there. Like, if you didn't make it to Wendy's to get your free $1 drink today, it'll be there tomorrow. And if it's not there tomorrow, it wasn't meant to be. And there's a certain amount of the religious true believer and meant to be. Their language and their thinking on certain things is very helpful. Whether it's true or not, it is freeing. And this is why, if we want to talk about my blinding array of metatext in John and how it's affecting my life, because I don't talk about it much outside that pod, and how my thinking is developing and changing, having read and continuing to read that book. When John says the only God who is a salvific God, and the only way that you can attain that God's salvation is by believing, and that belief in its own right is the salvation. This isn't magic. This isn't semantic magic he's doing. He's not being funny, and he's not being fiddly for effect. He's right. If you put yourself in the mental gymnastic state to actually believe in Jesus, and to believe that Jesus died for your sins, and to believe that as such you owe something to that God, that is salvation. There is a salvific effect there. And it's the salvific effect of what I just said. Well, it's in his hands to a certain degree. Right? If he's a god of time, if he's a wizard who's able to travel forward and back in time and make things the way he wants, and if God has a plan and God has that effect, God is able to do that. God has that power, and it shouldn't be difficult to believe that God does have that power once you can conceive of the ability. it shouldn't be difficult to understand that any god of the universe has all conceivable abilities. So if there's a rule 34 of being God, right? If you can think it, God has already done it. Not just done it, but done it to perfection. Done it so many times that he's perfected it. You understand? And so there is a salvific. There is a salvific effect. There is a release from FOMO, just in understanding that, I'm trying to think of a good example from my life that's not John Keel, that's not the same examples I keep using over and over and over again, but I missed a bus the other day through no, and it's about being able to tell the difference in what is and what is not your fault. And this is important. So I missed a bus the other day through no fault of my own, and what I thought to myself was, well, I guess I wasn't supposed to make that bus today, right? Or a good example, buses, things that are entirely outside your control, but also that are outside the control of the human beings who are ostensibly are in control of them, and buses are in that category of object. They're good proofs for this. They're good examples. And so the other day I had an impulse to just get on the bus that was there, and I was just told, get on that bus, and I got on the bus, and it was the wrong bus. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, there must be a reason. There must be a reason that I had the impulse, the intuition, the compulsion, however you want to think of it, to leave the library an hour early and go home an hour early. I had no reason to go home an hour early. In fact, going home an hour early is almost risky for me. Walking in broad daylight behind a building is risky, no matter whether the cops know you're going back there and know that you're safe or not, know that you're harmless, I should say, or not. It is risky behavior, because I am in a way drawing attention to myself, and so I am increasing the likelihood that my actual greatest fear, teenagers, will happen to me. Like, I am increasing that by being seen by teenagers, and mischief is my actual greatest fear, not teenagers specifically. I'm being funny. For those who are actually watching these, seeing the blinding array. Seeing the dizzying array of my own metatext, the metatext of my own thoughts, and how my thoughts swirl around one another, and they become patterns, but they grow and they develop out and they blossom. Now, very much like the sacred geometry that I was explaining to you, but that's an artifact of meditating on sacred geometry as long as I have, and that's since I started meditating intentionally knowing what I was doing, meditating on sacred geometry, freshman year of high school. And so that was in 2001, it's 2024, that's 23, and that was intentionally doing it, but I've always had an affinity for geometries. I have not had an affinity for the mathematics of geometry. I can do it. It's a lot of equations, and I just don't like remembering that stuff. I don't like remembering the equations, but and you don't need to. Frankly, you don't need to memorize the equations unless you're going to be working in fields that use those equations, and that's where school fucks everything up. But school, the way they taught us things without telling us the why and the when they're necessary to encourage us to learn them, not to gear ourselves toward those things, but to go, oh, so this is what they're doing. That sort of thing robs children of the wonder of realizing that adults do things. And honestly, that's an artifact of the 1970s and the cubicle farm. Does that make it okay? Kinda. If you know too much and you work in your cubicle, you're gonna workspace and you're gonna actually go insane. Office space. You're gonna office space and actually go insane. And that's kind of what I'm telling you telling you over and over again is that trying to go back to just working a 9 to 5 is going to drive me absolutely insane. And not just because I've spent the last 3 years with an impossible amount of downtime, but because I've spent the last 3 years with an impossible amount of downtime that I have filled with other more satisfying creative pursuits, whether they be writing or reading or whatever, recording and editing podcasts. And yeah, it would be this one. I have already established I'm going to have to edit this one. And I might experiment with fast forwarding through the trash pulls, just increasing the overall. Well, no, but see, here's the thing. If I do that, I'm going to have to be quiet, and I've gotten talking to the future again, like you're sitting here with me and you're asking me good questions, or at least like you're giving me looks. And again, I'm going to have to say this every time, and I do feel bad for people who don't like hearing me repeat myself. I used to be one of those people who just didn't like to hear speakers repeat themselves, because if you're repeating yourself, it means you don't know what you're saying. But there's a certain amount of that's in any one video, or any one argument. And so I was making that mistake, and I was getting that very wrong. But this is very much an invitation to just sit down on the couch with me, have nothing to say, smoke a bowl, drink a beer, eat something, whatever, and just hang out with me while I talk about what's going on in my life. And the thing that you don't get is, like, if you want me to participate and you want me to reciprocate and be involved in your life, all you have to do is leave it in the comments. Like, do I need to just end every video the way, what's his name, Davey504 does, and ask you for a mental health checkup? Like, how are you doing? You're allowed to do that. And in fact, I'll just tell you now, you're encouraged to do that with me. Yeah, you are encouraged to do that with me, and I don't want to make it kitschy, and I don't want to steal from Davey504. But yeah, absolutely. Tell me what's going on in your life. Tell me what games you're playing. Tell me how you like to play this game, and I don't mind engaging in conversation in the comments. I'm not that guy. I'm not an office working. That's the thing, is I'm not one of these cubicle farm dickheads. It took a really long time. You want to talk about cubicle farm dickheads? You know, I talk a lot about Thick44 and how much I admire him, but it took a really damn long time. I used to argue with the things he said. I used to argue with the things he said on the podcast that they did, and just his general worldview, like crazy in Neeb's gaming comments, and it took me a really long time to like him as a person, because of the cognitive biases that he developed in the Office Space universe by living in that close office corporate community as long as he did, working in it. It gives you ideas about what other human beings are like, because all of the downtime, not just the emotional and cognitive and actual labor downtime, we know the difference in the white and the blue collar is that the white collar has stayed clean and the blue collar is blue instead of brown for some reason, but it should be the white and the brown collar because the brown collar is stained with sweat. But we do understand the difference. We do understand that this is it's not even a medieval. This is an ancient distinction between the Pagani and the bureaucrats. Like, we know this. I'm gonna have to go back to intensely reading the Bible, because even the Bible makes distinctions between Pagani, that is pastoral Jews, and city Jews. Like there is a difference. And I was talking yesterday about the city mouse and the country mouse. So maybe that's a book I need to read for you assholes. Maybe you guys don't understand that there is a difference. That your ethnos, where you come from, the actual city, the actual town, where matters. I did not bring enough antidotes down here. I'm gonna have to go back up already. I might have brought enough ethers to just absorb it with Poisona, I think is what they call it in this game. I'm lost. I'm not really trying to do this dungeon perfectly. If I were trying to do it perfectly, there's a map. But I need to at least gain 1 level while I'm down here. I don't want to hit that boss too weak. I'm trying to hit the boss as a level, maybe 2 levels lower than what I need to. So that cumulative effect, well, it won't be a cumulative effect, but so maybe I can get the rat tail. I'd like to get it about 5 levels early. This is probably going to be a boss fight or something stupid, so let's just heal up real quick. That was easy. Okay, it's just an earth elemental. We're good. So time management. I'm gonna try to circle everything around. I'm not gonna try. I'm going to circle everything around time management. When I go silent like that and I'm thinking about nothing, is what that silence is. I've gone and thought about nothing. Again, let my brain go completely empty except for what my hands and my eyes are doing, which is a kind of auto-hypnosis, and I would recommend that you learn to do it. I can teach you these things. Talking to the future is where I would be willing to teach you how to do breathing exercises. Maybe we can do that at the end of these videos or something. I need to know what you want from me. There's a big part of I need to know what you want, and then what I need you to do is not run away screaming when I give it to you. The way I manage my time is I don't have a bedtime unless I have a wake up time. If I have a wake up time, I'm in bed 10 hours before I have to be awake. Why? Because you need 1 hour away from blue light in order to fall asleep. You need 8 hours away from caffeine in order to stay asleep. And I like to be snuck up on by sleep and to wake up early. That is, in fact, how I slept last night. I'm actually surprised I have battery because I was playing Wild Arms, an original PlayStation game that I adore, and honestly would be more entertaining for you to watch me play than this because I talk shit to that game for whatever reason. I'm just sitting there and having a blast playing that game, and it has maybe the best start, certainly the best first 3 hours of any video game I've ever played. And that remains true to this day. That is, however, a game that I've never finished, Wild Arms, because I managed to dead end myself in that game. It goes open world very early. In fact, it starts with a sort of open world feel that JRPGs tend to avoid. Time management, right? So I'm still talking about my time management. I had got back to my tent. I told you I was going to try to get back to my tent in time to dry my socks, and I did not do that. But I did get back to my tent in time to just let my feet be naked for a few hours, and that on its own is a particular kind of joy for me. And I don't care if you like it. I genuinely don't care. Like I was listening to the Rich Eisen podcast making fun of Mac Hollins last night because he does the earthing thing where he likes to be barefoot. And I wish people wouldn't say that. I wish they wouldn't make it magic. There's no electromagnetic radiation that you're picking up through the bottom of your feet that's making you healthier. Shoes are just actually bad for your feet. Shoes are actually bad for your feet. They're actually bad for your posture. But I did agree with Chris Brockman. He made the same point that I'm about to make. and maybe he said it before I thought it, so I have to give him credit for putting it in my head. But if you really believed that earther business, why don't you wear no shoes while you actually play football, Matt Collins? Other people who believe that earther business, why don't they just never wear shoes? It's about drawing attention to the fact that you're not wearing shoes is really all it's about. And then it's about, oh, I'm getting the attention that I want for not wearing my shoes, and the only question that anybody ever asks me is why, not what are the benefits. And so I want to talk about the benefits, so I have to make up a why, and I find that annoying. I really do. I just have no respect for that process. And magic, spiritualism, just, it's all, so much of it is that. Which is really funny, because I was talking about Harlan Ellison with one of the librarians, the blonde one. I didn't catch her name. She's the only one who's blonde. Anyway, that might not be true. There might be anyway. I was talking to her about Harlan Ellison the other day, and I think I talked about that on one of my homelessness vlogs, maybe for like a minute. But Harlan Ellison is the person that I think of when I think about the question of where do you get your inspiration from. And I need to pause. I want to fill up my water bottle. Well, who remembers what I was talking about now? I don't remember what I was talking about. And a couple of teenage girls just sat down beside me, so that might be the end of the talking to myself portion of this video. So, talking to the future portion of this, talking to the future video. So rather than be rude, I'm going to be quiet for a while. Those chests were a real thing back in the day.